Hey everyone! Welcome to Update X24H, your go-to channel for the latest news, hottest dramas, breaking stories, and all the buzz from the world of entertainment. We're here to keep you updated, entertained, and always in the loop. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing family, because here at Update X24H, we bring you the news that matters, the drama you love, and the stories you can't miss. Thanks for being part of our community. Let's stay connected, stay updated, and keep the good vibes rolling. What if the happiest chapter of your life suddenly turned into the hardest test of your faith? Tonight on Update X24H, we are not talking about red carpets, ratings, or scandals. We are talking about a young couple, Yulong and young Mei Mei, who sat in front of a simple camera and opened their hearts to the world, sharing a pregnancy update so shocking that thousands of viewers were left in tears, and yet somehow filled with hope. Stay with me, because this is not just a story about fear and uncertainty. It is a story about how we choose to love, even when the future terrifies us. It began in the most ordinary way, which is perhaps why it felt so devastating. There was no grand announcement, no countdown graphics, no polished studio backdrop. Instead, the camera flickered on inside a modest living room, the kind of space where families share late suppers and quiet conversations after long days. A single lamp in the corner cast a warm, uneven glow, softening the edges of the room and making everything feel a little too real, a little too close. Viewers who joined the stream expected the familiar comfort of light-hearted updates. After all, Yulong and young Mei Mei were newlyweds, soon-to-be parents whose recent appearances had been filled with laughter, playful teasing, and the gentle excitement of preparing for a new life. Many imagined they would hear about baby names, food cravings, or nursery plans. But the moment the couple appeared on screen, those expectations began to dissolve. Yulong's posture told the truth before his words did. He sat slightly forward, shoulders drawn inward as if he were trying to protect something fragile or brace for a blow that had already landed. His face looked tired in a way makeup could never hide, the kind of exhaustion that comes from sleepless nights filled with too many what-ifs. Beside him, Mei Mei did not greet the audience with her usual bright smile. Her eyes were swollen, lashes still clumped from recent tears. One hand rested protectively over her abdomen, the other woven tightly into Yulong's fingers, not for the camera, but for reassurance. The chat scrolled faster, questions piling up, but the room itself seemed to hold its breath. This was not entertainment. From the very first seconds, it felt as though the viewers had stepped into a moment they were never meant to witness. Not a show, but a private turning point in two young lives. The moment Yulong reached for the folder on the table, the atmosphere shifted from uneasy to almost unbearable. It was not the kind of document viewers were used to seeing in a celebrity's hands. It was thick, slightly creased from being held too tightly, stamped with the unmistakable markings of a hospital. In that instant, thousands of people watching understood that this was not a script and this was not a publicity stunt. It was evidence of a conversation that had taken place in a quiet consulting room, under the steady light of a doctor's gaze, where no cameras were allowed. He began to speak slowly, as if each sentence needed to be carried carefully to avoid breaking apart midway. Earlier that day, they had walked into the clinic expecting reassurance. They had imagined the gentle rhythm of a healthy heartbeat on a monitor, perhaps a new image of their baby to frame or save on their phones. Instead, the doctor had cleared their throat, adjusted their glasses, and chosen their words with the caution of someone who knows that language can wound. The findings were not what they had hoped for. The baby's heart did not look the way it was supposed to. There were signs that the developing nervous system might face serious challenges. The next few weeks would not be a simple countdown to birth, but a period of close observation, uncertainty, and difficult possibilities. Yulong did not repeat every clinical term. He did not need to. The weight in his voice carried the meaning. Beside him, Mei Mei stared down at her lap, tears slipping silently onto her hands as he explained that the doctors could not promise an outcome. There might be treatment options, there might be hopeful changes, but there were no guarantees. In a single appointment, the future they had imagined, a future filled with first steps, first words, and birthdays, had been replaced by a fragile question mark. What followed was not anger, not blame directed outward, but something far more familiar and quietly destructive, the instinct to turn inwards and accuse oneself. As Yulong spoke, it became clear that the doctor had never used the word fault. The report did not carry anyone's name on the line of responsibility. Yet somewhere between the waiting room and the drive home, he had already decided that if anyone must be held accountable, it should be him. He confessed, almost in a whisper, that he had replayed the past months again and again, searching for moments where he should have insisted that Mei Mei rest, where he should have fought harder to shield her from exhausting schedules, harsh comments and relentless expectations. It was as if he believed that by gathering enough regrets, he might somehow rewrite the present. Mei Mei listened, the pain in her expression shifting from sorrow to a kind of tender frustration. She knew, as many women do, how often mothers are quietly blamed when pregnancies do not follow the script of perfection. She refused to let that pattern repeat in their home. Gently, she reminded him of every appointment they had attended together, every decision they had made after asking for professional advice, every evening when he had coaxed her to bed earlier while she insisted on finishing one more task. They had not been careless. They had simply been human, walking through life with limited knowledge, doing what seemed right at the time. From somewhere off camera, her mother's voice joined the conversation, soft but firm. She spoke not as a critic, but as someone who had raised children of her own and understood how easily love can turn into self-accusation. No one in the family blamed him, she said. They were frightened, yes, and aching, but united. In that moment, the live stream stopped being about a single medical report. It became a portrait of how families across generations and cultures wrestle with the invisible weight of responsibility, learning slowly that love is not measured by how perfectly we protect each other, but by how faithfully we stay when protection is no longer possible. After the hardest truths had been spoken aloud, there was a moment when silence seemed to press against the walls, threatening to swallow them both. It would have been easy, almost understandable, for Yulong and Mei Mei to end the live stream there, to disappear behind closed doors and let the world guess at what came next. Instead, they did something quieter but far more difficult. They outlined how they intended to live with this uncertainty, day by day, without surrendering to it. Yulong explained that they had already arranged further appointments with specialists, not in the hope of chasing miracles, but to make sure that every possible avenue of care was explored. There would be more scans, more consultations, more nights spent reading medical articles they never wished to understand. At the same time, he said, they had been told very clearly that Mei Mei's own well-being mattered just as much. So projects had been postponed, public appearances reduced, and the relentless demand to appear strong at all times quietly set aside. Mei Mei admitted she had started a small notebook where she wrote down one thing each day that still felt good. A warm bowl of soup, a gentle kick from the baby, the way her mother hummed in the kitchen to keep herself from crying. These gestures did not change the diagnosis, but they changed the atmosphere in which they faced it. They were not choosing denial. They were choosing to stay awake, to act, to organize their fear into something that looked, however fragile, like a plan. When the live stream ended, the image of that living room did not simply vanish into the digital noise. It traveled. Clips, translated summaries and screenshots began to appear on timelines and message boards across different time zones. In some places, the story was briefly framed as celebrity news, but it did not stay there. People who had never heard of Yulong or Mei Mei before found themselves watching two strangers speak about a fear they instantly recognized. In the United States, parents who had lived through stays in neonatal intensive care units wrote long, thoughtful comments, offering both empathy and practical wisdom, careful not to minimize the difficulty ahead. In South Korea and Japan, fans organized quiet streams of supportive messages, avoiding speculation and instead sharing short notes of encouragement and simple prayers. Across Europe, older viewers praised the couple's decision to speak plainly about a subject many families keep hidden, recognizing in their vulnerability a challenge to the culture of flawless images and curated perfection. There were, of course, a few skeptical voices, as there always are, but they were quickly drowned out by a wider chorus of ordinary people who saw, beyond the public status of the couple, something profoundly human. The story began to detach itself from fame and attach itself instead to experience. The experience of waiting for test results, of loving someone whose future you cannot control, of sitting in a quiet room with your own thoughts and wondering how you will bear whatever comes next. In the days that followed, as the initial shock settled into a quieter, steadier concern, many viewers found themselves reflecting less on the details of the diagnosis and more on what the live stream had revealed about the way we face uncertainty. Yulong and Mei Mei had not offered a neat moral or a dramatic twist. They had not promised that everything would work out, nor had they surrendered to despair. Instead, they had allowed people to witness something rare. The moment when a life narrative changes direction, not with a dramatic gesture, but with a trembling breath and a simple decision to keep going. For those watching, especially adults who had already known illness, loss, or sudden change, the lesson was both painful and gentle. It reminded them that control is, and has always been, an illusion, yet responsibility and care are still meaningful. It suggested that strength is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act kindly and truthfully while afraid. It hinted that hope is not a denial of reality, but a stubborn refusal to reduce the future to a single outcome, good or bad. Above all, it invited people to look again at their own families, at the conversations left unfinished, at the love sometimes buried beneath busyness and distraction. Without preaching, the live stream asked a quiet question. If tomorrow brought news that changed everything, who would you want beside you, and have you told them clearly how much they matter now while there is still time? If this story touched you even just a little, I invite you to stay with us here on Update X24H. On this channel, we do not chase shock for the sake of views. We share stories that remind us what it means to be human, to love, to fear, to fall apart, and to stand up again. Speech balloon, let me know in the comments. Have you, or someone you know, ever faced a difficult pregnancy or a health scare in the family? Only share what you are comfortable with. Your experience may quietly give strength to someone else watching tonight. Bell, please remember to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if this video resonated with you, and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss our next stories. Thank you truly for spending your time with us today. Take care of your heart, take care of your family, and I'll see you in the next video on Update X24H. If this story touched you even just a little, I invite you to stay with us here on Update X24H. On this channel, we do not chase shock for the sake of views. We share stories that remind us what it means to be human, to love, to fear, to fall apart, and to stand up again. Speech balloon, let me know in the comments. Have you, or someone you know, ever faced a difficult pregnancy or a health scare in the family? Only share what you are comfortable with. Your experience may quietly give strength to someone else watching tonight. Bell, please remember to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if this video resonated with you, and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss our next stories. Thank you truly for spending your time with us today. Take care of your heart, take care of your family, and I'll see you in the next video on Update X24H.